Hey, got another article from Advertising Age. YouTube is to offer third-party brand safety tools following a revolt by marketers. Marketers will soon have more options at their disposal when advertising on YouTube, which said that it's working on third-party brand safety vendors like Double Verify and Integral Ad Science to assure marketers that their budgets won't wind up paying for ads on violent, offensive, or otherwise unsavory content. YouTube parent company Google, we know, said it will work with companies that are accredited by the ad industry's Media Ratings Council for new verification tools, but didn't provide an exact timeline on when those tools will be available. So, I mean, we've seen it in the news. On top of that, advertisers had no control of where their ads truly were being displayed. Yeah. And this, with the millions of consumers pushing out content in whatever the type of genre-related content is, they had no control over that brand connection. Yeah. And it's sensitive. It is a very sensitive thing. And Rob, that's where you talk to on a regular basis is branding components and storytelling, right? And if you're being dredged through the mud with every PewDiePie that's out there, right? Anybody?
It is one of those things where, I mean, you talk about it. You could have a whole show on this. I could do a 2-hour rant.
I think we're going to do a series, Rob. I really got a feeling.
This is, I'll tell you. So I read that article, and it was basically, it should have been just Charlie Brown's teacher reading, blah, 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 buzzword, blah, 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 blah. Nothing's going to happen, right? It's still, your ads are still going to appear on sites that you don't want them to, on videos that you don't want them to. Programmatic is a flawed way to do media and storytelling and marketing. It just is. Because it immediately goes to the lowest common denominator. And you can raise that lowest common denominator a little bit, but there will always be a lowest common denominator. And that's always where it goes, because it has to, because what it's doing is it's targeting not the content of the brand, or excuse me, the brand of the content. It's actually targeting where the user happens to be at that particular time. And what you're assuming is that there's no associative value between what the content the customer is actually consuming and where your ad appears in context with that. Mm-hmm. And there is. There just is. There used to be a reason that we took, one of the main reasons that we took out an ad, a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal when when that used to be like a thing, was because it was the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. And your ad, and that's why you would spend so much money on the creative there. And that's why you would spend so much money on making advertising art. Right. Was because the context of which that ad would be consumed, whether it was Vanity Fair or Wall Street Journal or New York Times or NBC or wherever it was going to appear, meant something. And so the whole point of surveillance-based programmatic advertising is the content brand doesn't mean anything. It's just where the consumer happens to be on that particular click. And I think that's just a flawed way of looking at it, and this is the flip side of this. Imagine this for a second. One of the things that I've said of late is this idea that for whatever reason, businesses are now they value, there's an inefficiency acceptance rather than an innovation acceptance. In other words, the IAB, that's the Internet Advertising Bureau, which is in hand with the Media Ratings Council, came out and basically said, look, folks, 70% viewability on advertising, that's as good as it's ever going to get because of ad blockers and all this kind of stuff that's out there. Sure. Paying a 30% tax now on digital display ads, and you're willing to do that as advertising even gets more inefficient and willing to actually have those ads appear on sites that you don't want them to, rather than going, maybe we should actually think about like creating our own media channel, our own quality, or subsidizing high quality journalism or something like that. There are so many more interesting ways to spend our money than making sure that we're arbitraging digital programmatic advertising in a better way. Got it. It's going to evolve, though. I mean, what we're talking about is a crashing in of a delivery network that is in a way it's artificial intelligence from a delivery standpoint. I mean, it's getting to these remnants of buys, but it's also finding a particular demographic that you're going at. But
the environment is going to mature. I mean, programmatic in the concept is very, very interesting, but the canvas in which it's delivering to is still immature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it really depends on, which goes right to the point of our first part of our conversation at the top of the show, which is how long is mature, right? I mean, in these days, are we talking mature in 2 years or 10 years? The conversation that fascinated me of late, and I'm going to blank on the person's name who was having this conversation, but basically the conversation was between a publisher and an advertiser, a major publisher and a major advertiser.
Mm-hmm.
And the major publisher said, "Hey, you advertise with us, right, on digital?" And the advertiser said, "Well, yeah, we will for a little bit." And he goes, "What do you mean you will for a little bit?" "Well, we'll advertise you until we get enough of your audience, cookied so that we can track them around the web. And then I'll just go buy that same buyer, that same advertising and eyeball cheaper.
Right.
Because I can go buy it on Bob's blog or through Programmatic way cheaper than I can buy it from you." So they go in and they do this wonderful big media buy with a big content brand, like a big New York Times or a Wall Street Journal or something like that.
Right.
Let those ads run a while, pixel and get, cookied all those people who've actually seen that content, and then just follow them around the web and stop the media buy on the big brand. And that's what advertising is these days.
You're poaching the audience.
All you're doing is chasing it to the bottom, right? You're finding that lowest value click for the eyeball,
right?
Because again, what we're fascinated with is the quote unquote engagement of the eyeball rather than the action that somebody may take. And I can see this already starting to happen. As we start looking at things like native advertising and content that's actually promoted posts and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Such a big piece of what we're doing as digital marketers and more specifically digital advertisers, that it becomes this, sort of self-perpetuating sort of idea. You have to, the early days of it, just to your point, the early days of it, you can make big strides. As I like to say, I love being the first SEO guy through the door. Moving the needle from 0 to 80 is child's play.
Mm-hmm.
Moving that needle from 80 to 81 takes the rest of your life. It's the same with programmatic advertising. That first benefit you get out of that scalability is huge, wonderful. You get a huge efficiency of that ad, that scalability of the media buy. But then optimizing it from that point forward,
diminishing returns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It has to be. Mathematically, it has to be.
Huh.